With Plastisol inks, you can layer one color on top of the other, provided you dried the first layer thoroughly. Give you an example, if you tried red on top of blue, it does not give you purple. Red stays perfectly how it is supposed to. This gives rise to another way of alignment. So here is our design, and the first thing we're going to need to do is separate all the colors for making our screens. So let's do so. Now that our design is separated, we can now take this and put it into our cut program so that we can cut our individual screens. We want to make sure that our white layer has got mostly colored in, and we don't have any of the blue going to be filling in open areas. So the blue is just going to be laid on top. And if I had to make this completely white here, that means that I'll have to have a separate extra screen just to put black over this white in the process, and it's just going to make it a lot more difficult and a lot more screens than you really need. So in this case, we're going to take away these areas here to reveal the shirts rather, and then add our separate colors on top. The reason for this block that we've got here is just so that if we're doing silk screening, which we are going to be doing here, this vinyl here will be cut out, and we're going to be weeding away the inside, not the outside. And this will be a blocker for the ink to make sure that the ink doesn't go through the sides and then onto the t-shirt. The reason why I've made this the same color as the artwork, simply because I want this to be one individual screen for our color black. This will be our one individual screen for our color blue, and then individual screen for our color pink. And that's just to make sure that we have our separation of colors so that we know each one is for a separate color. And even though we are using such a small piece for the lips, we still have to block out the rest of the ink going to the t-shirt. So using the same size border as the frame just prevents us from having the ink flowing off the sides after we put blocking tape on. Now that we've cut it out on our cutter, we can now move on to weeding out our design. Just keep in mind to always start from the inside out and not the outside in. And once we've weeded our design, we move over to putting on application tape, backing tape, so that it helps us to apply it to our screen. And here I've already pre-stretched my screen, so all I've got to do now is just peel off the backing tape once I've stuck it onto the screen. As you can see, now that I've applied my vinyl to my screen, creating ourselves a posi. Here you see some black ink around here. Basically, all I did was just wash out what I could on a previous screen that I used, and I'm not going to waste. So because I'm doing this as a test, I'll just reuse the screen. It's not actually for an order, so I'm just going to reuse it, save myself some money. Right, now that this is done, we're going to repeat the process to the other two colors. Then I'll meet you upstairs next to the screen press. I've lined my screen with masking tape just to prevent any ink from going out of the screen and then onto the t-shirt, and also just to protect the frame from getting too much ink on it if we make a spill. We're going to apply some spray on adhesive just so that when we put our shirt down, it stays down and doesn't move around while we are doing each color. Now that we've put down our adhesive to keep the shirt from moving around, we can now put the t-shirt onto our board. Okay. Now that that's done, our first screen is attached. Now that we've done that, we can do the exact same to the other two screens and attach them. Right, now that that's done, we're going to start with our first screen, and for that we're going to need some black ink. Before we go and put our ink onto our screen, I just learned something to elevate the screen a little bit, just so that you make sure that you don't spill ink onto the shirt before we do any screen printing of any kind. Before I do anything else, I need to make sure my flash dryer is on, so that when I'm ready to dry my garment, it is ready and at temperature. Cool, now that we've got our black ink, we're going to take a large portion of it out and apply it to our screen evenly. Make sure that you've got enough ink on your screen, because you can always put back into your bottle, and don't try and give yourself too little, otherwise you're going to have problems when flooding your screen. Okay, once you've done and applied your ink to your screen, you can now get your squeegee and take off our little barrier that we had put there. Once we've taken that out, now we are successfully ready to start screen printing. Now that we've got our ink situated on our screen and we're ready to now flood our screen, we're going to go and take our finger, lift up the screen just so that there is some distance between your screen and the shirt, because we are going to take our ink and flood the screen. Now you can remove your finger and you can now successfully push forward and apply a bit of pressure to put the ink that was on your screen onto the shirt. And once you've done that, you can lift. Now we've successfully put our first layer of ink onto it. Now we can head off to the flash dryer to do our next layer. Now that we've successfully dried the first layer, we can now move over to our next color, blue. Okay, once we've lined up our screen, we can now put our masking tape as the barrier, so we can now put our ink onto our screen. Make sure that you've got even amounts of ink down, so that when you flood your screen, you don't do it incorrectly. And just remember, you can always put back if you don't use it. Alright, now that our blue layer is done, now we are ready to do our last layer of red. Well, look at that. Throughout this print there are no unprinted areas, and each color is perfectly separated from the other. So this bleed over method definitely allows more room for marginal error when it comes to the alignment of layers. So you should definitely go try it out, and happy self screening.
At AM.CO.za, we have always taken pride in our products and customer service. Our Google rating represents our commitment to providing our clients with the best support possible. We have officially achieved a rating of 4.9 stars and an astounding 699 reviews for our Jet Park branch in Johannesburg at the end of 2020. Hlobosile Kumalo, a level 6 local guide who has 64 reviews all over the country, says, "The tech support team is on point. I had an issue with my machine. I called them and they said I must bring it in. The person who helped me checked everything and made sure everything was 100%. Kind staff members helped me load my machine in and out of my car." This was just one of the many appreciative reviews we have received. These tags mean a lot to us. Thank you so much for your support. Let's move our attention to our branch in Montague Gardens of Cape Town, where we have achieved a rating of 4.8 stars and an amazing 299 reviews. Level 7 reviewer Dash Somolu, who has 119 reviews on Google, says, "Great company, great products and very well priced items. The training we received from Messias Chunga was top-notch. He was very knowledgeable and knows his stuff." Another satisfied customer amongst many. We would like to thank you, our loyal customers. Thank you, South Africa. AM.CO.za. Achievement matters.